Hey everyone, ready to dive into a learning technique that could seriously shake things up for you?
I think we're all ears.
I'm talking about mind mapping and how it can actually unlock a whole new level of learning.
It's fascinating, because it really plays into how our brains naturally learn.
Right, so much of what we're taught to do is totally linear. Notes, lists, flashcards.
But our brains don't actually work like that. It's all about connections and associations, like a web, not a straight line.
So mind mapping is all about bringing that web to life, visually.
Exactly. You start with your main topic and then branch out to subtopics, keywords, images, everything linked.
Like a tree growing out from that central trunk.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, it actually has a basis in cognitive psychology, something called the picture superiority effect.
The picture what now?
The picture superiority effect. It means our brains remember images much better than just words alone.
Okay, that makes sense. Like we might forget a list of ingredients, but remember what a dish looks like.
Exactly. And by creating a visual map of the information, we're tapping into that power of visual memory.
So it's not just about remembering facts, but actually understanding them.
Right, those visual connections help create understanding, not just memorization. Studies have shown that mind mapping can actually improve memory retention by 10 to 15%. That's huge.
That's a pretty significant boost. But does this only work for people who are visual learners? What about everyone else?
That's a common misconception. While visual learners might feel more comfortable with mind maps at first, the benefits actually extend to all learning styles. It's kind of like cross-training for your brain.
Interesting. So let's get specific. If I'm studying, say, cell structure for a biology exam, how would mind mapping work?
Well, think of it this way. You'd start with cell structure in the center of your page. That's your main idea. Then you'd branch out to major components like nucleus, mitochondria, cell membrane, and so on. And don't be afraid to use colors, symbols, even little sketches.
So instead of just words on a page, I'm actually creating a picture of how the cell works.
You got it. And by actively creating those branches, you're thinking about the relationships between those parts, how they fit together, what they do.
It's not just memorizing terms, it's about understanding how everything interacts.
Precisely. It's like building with Legos. As you put those pieces, those concepts together in your mind map, you're constantly checking back to the instructions to make sure everything fits. It's way more active than just reading definitions over and over again.
I love that analogy. So it's creating a blueprint in my mind, but some people might say, hold on, mind mapping sounds like it takes way more time.
It's a myth we gotta bust.
Yeah.
Sure, making a mind map might take a bit more time up front, but here's the catch. The long-term benefits are insane. Research actually shows that mind mapping can save you hours every week because you understand and remember the info better.
So it's not about studying more, it's about making the time you do study way more effective.
Exactly. And it's not just about remembering facts. There are so many other benefits we can explore.
Lead the way. I'm ready to hear more.
One of the coolest things about mind mapping is how it helps you remember things better. And it's not just rote memorization, it's about making those connections that stick with you.
So how do these visuals actually trigger memories? What's the mechanism there?
Well, you're not just writing words when you make a mind map, right? You're using colors, images, even the spatial relationships on the page. Those become anchors for your memory.
Okay, I see. So later on, when I'm trying to remember, those visuals bring back the details.
Exactly. It's like having a map in your mind that guides you through all the information. And it's not just for facts and figures. Mind mapping can help you understand complex ideas too by showing you how they relate to each other visually.
And that brings us to another benefit, creativity and problem solving. How does mind mapping help with that?
Traditional note-taking can actually hold you back creatively because it's so rigid. Mind mapping lets you think outside the box. The way it branches out allows you to make connections you might not have seen otherwise.
So it's giving your brain the freedom to wander and explore different pathways.
Right. And that can be super helpful for problem solving. When you're stuck, a mind map can break the problem down, visualize potential solutions, and even spark those aha moments.
Especially in fields like engineering or design, where creative solutions are everything. Do you have any real-world examples of how mind mapping has actually helped people succeed?
Absolutely. Remember David, the machine learning student we mentioned before? He was struggling to grasp complex mathematical formulas until he started mind mapping.
Right, he's getting lost in the details.
Exactly. But by mapping out those relationships between variables, he started seeing patterns and connections he hadn't noticed before.
It's like instead of getting bogged down in the symbols, he could see the big picture and how everything fit together.
You got it. And it totally changed things for him. His understanding of the concepts improved, he solved problems faster, and he even came up with innovative solutions that blew his professors away.
That's incredible. It shows how mind mapping goes beyond just memorizing to really understanding and using that knowledge.
Yep.
And you mentioned businesses using it too.
Oh, yeah. Businesses use mind mapping for streamlining projects, improving communication, and boosting productivity. There was even a survey of executives that found those who used mind mapping software were 20 to 30% more productive on average. That's a game changer.
It's not just for students then. It's a tool that helps people work smarter no matter what they do. So it's efficient too.
Exactly. And that ties into another key benefit, simplifying complex topics. When you're drowning in information, a mind map acts like a roadmap, guiding you through the key points and making even the toughest concepts more digestible.
Like taking a big tangled ball of yarn and sorting it into neat, color-coded bundles.
Perfect analogy. By breaking it down into smaller chunks and adding those visual cues, you go from passively absorbing information to actively engaging with it. You start making connections and building a framework for understanding.
So I've got enhanced memory, boosted creativity, increased productivity, and simplified comprehension.
Hmm.
Impressive. But there's one more benefit I'm really curious about. Improved writing. How does that work?
People think of writing as this linear process, but our thoughts don't always flow in a straight line. Mind mapping lets you capture those scattered ideas and organize them into a coherent structure before you even start writing.
So instead of staring at a blank page, I have a visual guide to follow. Makes sense.
Right, and it's a lifesaver for writer's block. When you're struggling to begin, a mind map helps you generate ideas, identify key themes, and even outline the structure of your writing.
Super helpful for students writing essays or professionals creating reports. But is there any research to support these claims?
There have been studies where students using mind mapping software for writing assignments produced work that was more detailed, better organized, and showed a clearer understanding of the topic compared to those using traditional notes.
Wow, so it's more than just brainstorming. It helps turn those brainstormed ideas into well-structured writing.
Exactly, and it works for all kinds of writing, from creative stuff to technical documents. By using mind mapping to get your thoughts in order, you can seriously boost the quality of your writing.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here. The benefits of mind mapping are clear, but it can still feel a little daunting for beginners. Where do you even start?
The great thing about mind mapping is you can keep it as simple or as complex as you like. Pen and paper, a whiteboard, even digital tools. Whatever works for you.
You mentioned digital tools. Those seem to be getting more popular, but are they really necessary?
It really depends on your personal preference and what you're trying to do. Some people find drawing by hand helps them process information better.
Yeah, I get that. There's something about the physical act of creating those branches.
Totally. But digital tools have some major perks, especially for big projects or teamwork. You can easily rearrange branches, add notes and links, even work on the mind map together in real time. Plus, you can add images, videos, all kinds of multimedia to make it super engaging.
So digital tools offer more flexibility and power, especially if you're comfortable with technology.
Exactly. And lots of them have free versions, so you can experiment and find one you like before paying for anything.
Good tip. So whether it's pen and paper or a fancy app, the key is to try it out and see what works best for you. No need to get hung up on making it perfect.
Right. It's a personal tool, so make it your own. Embrace the mess, try different layouts, and most importantly, have fun with it.
I like that. Learning should be enjoyable. Now, you mentioned using mind mapping for things beyond studying. Can you expand on that a bit?
Definitely. Mind mapping isn't just for studying. It's a tool for thinking that you can use for all sorts of things. We talked about business and writing, but it can also be great for personal projects, problem solving, making decisions, even creative stuff like brainstorming for a novel or planning a trip.
Like a Swiss Army knife for your brain.
Love that. Mind mapping helps you organize your thoughts, make connections, and get clarity no matter what you're doing.
It sounds like we've only scratched the surface of what mind mapping can do. But let's get back to our main focus, using it for study sessions. How can students use mind mapping to improve their learning?
Well, one really effective way is to use it to preview material before you even open a textbook or start taking notes. Create a mind map based on chapter headings, key terms, learning objectives, whatever you have. It'll give you a mental framework for understanding the information before you even start.
That's brilliant. It's like creating a map for your learning journey.
Precisely. Then, once you start digging into the material, you can use mind mapping to take notes during class or while you're reading. Instead of trying to write down everything, just capture those key concepts and connections using keywords, images, and colors.
Which brings us back to that picture superiority effect. Making it visual helps us remember later on.
Exactly. And when it's time to review, mind maps are fantastic for testing yourself. Cover up branches and see if you can remember what's there, or use your mind map to create flashcards or practice questions.
So it's not a one-time thing. You use it throughout the entire learning process.
Absolutely. The mind map should be something you keep coming back to, adding to, and revising as you learn more.
I love that idea. It becomes a record of your learning journey, not just the information itself, but also the connections you make and the insights you have.
Exactly. And that leads to a much deeper and more meaningful understanding.
All right. We've talked a lot about the awesome benefits of mind mapping and how it can revolutionize how we study, but let's get practical. For someone ready to try it out, what are the essential steps to get started?
It really doesn't have to be complicated. Start simple. Pen and paper, a whiteboard, whatever you have on hand. No need for fancy software or to be an artist or anything like that.
So, low barrier to entry. I like it. But what are those basic steps to get a mind map going?
All right, so first, pick that central topic, the big idea, and write it right in the middle of your page.
Okay, so that's like the core, the starting point.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm studying photosynthesis. I'd write photosynthesis smack dab in the middle. Then what?
Next, start branching out. Think main subtopics, connect them to that center with lines.
Got it. So for photosynthesis, I might have branches for things like light-dependent reactions and the Calvin cycle.
You got it. And then from there, you just keep branching out, getting more specific as you go, smaller branches, little twigs.
So under light-dependent reactions, I might have things like chlorophyll, electron transport chain, ATP synthesis, all branching off.
Exactly. And here's where you can get creative. Don't just stick to words, add images, symbols, use different colors, make it visually appealing.
Yeah. Instead of just writing chlorophyll, I could draw a little green leaf or something.
Exactly. The more you personalize it, the more memorable it'll be. Remember, the goal is to make it work for you.
It's about finding what clicks with your own brain, not following some strict set of rules. Speaking of, you mentioned digital tools earlier. What are some good ones for people who prefer to work digitally?
Oh, there are tons of great mind mapping apps out there. MindMeister, XMind, LucidSpark are a few popular ones. They've got all kinds of features, from basic mind mapping to collaboration, presentations, even integrations with other apps.
Sounds pretty powerful, especially for folks who are comfortable with tech or need those extra features.
Exactly. And a lot of them have free versions you can try before committing. So yeah, play around, find one that suits your needs.
Good advice. So, pen and paper or Slick app. The key is to just start exploring and see what feels right. You don't have to be a mind mapping master from day one.
Absolutely. It's a journey. The more you use it, the more you'll discover what works best for you.
Before we wrap up, I want to step back for a second. We've talked about how mind mapping can transform how we study, but how does this technique fit into the bigger picture of learning?
Great question. I think a big part of it is recognizing that we live in a world of information overload, right? It's coming at us from all directions constantly. And those old ways of learning, memorizing lists, and taking linear notes, they just don't cut it anymore.
It's like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Exactly. We need new tools to handle all this information, to filter out the noise and find what's truly important. And that's where mind mapping comes in.
Because it works with our brains, not against them.
Right. It helps us make connections, see the big picture, and find meaning in the chaos. It's almost like we're upgrading our mental operating system.
I like that. So it's not just about studying better. It's about becoming a more effective learner, thinker, and creator overall.
Exactly. Moving beyond passively consuming information to actively engaging with it, using it to shape our world.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, it looks like we've reached the end of our mind mapping deep dive. Hopefully you're feeling inspired to give this technique a try.
Absolutely. It's a simple but powerful tool that can truly change how you learn and think. And remember, the best way to learn is by doing.
So grab that pen and paper, open that app, and start mapping those thoughts. You might be surprised at what your mind can create.
We'd love to hear your experiences, your aha moments, all of it. So share those with us. And until next time, keep those minds mapping and keep those synapses firing.
See y'all next time.